Hi, everybody. Happy November. My name is Brenna Kantner. I am the Therapeutic Services Coordinator here at Nexus Youth and Family Services, and this is our November Wellness Workshop. So we are going to be kind of diving in to social media, how it affects the brain, and how it can impact mental health. So we are just going to dive right in here. When I decided to do the topic of social media and impact to mental health this month, uh, it was kind of a rabbit hole that I went down. There's so much information and so much research and so much to share that I really had to try to narrow it down. And I'm also going to give you all the resources should you choose to also go down that rabbit hole that I did. So we're just going to start off with the basics. Social media addiction. It is a behavioral addiction that is characterized by being overly concerned about social media, driven by that urge to log on to social media, and devoting so much time and effort to social media that it interferes with other aspects of your life, whether it's work, home, school, family, friends, relationships. It's becoming this ongoing, growing problem that can sometimes go unnoticed, um, and it can also have pretty significant consequences. So having an addiction to social media can look a lot like really the addiction of any other substance that is, mood altering, um, impacts your behavioral, cognitive, emotional preoccupation, your level of like frustration tolerance, withdrawal symptoms, like if you struggle to not be on social media, or you find that if you put your phone down, you pick it right back up to look. Conflict in relationships, school, decline of productivity at work, and oftentimes relapse. So if you decide that you want to stop using social media, it's a pretty quick turnaround before you start using it again. So when social media was started, I mean, it goes back to it was this basic idea to keep people connected. And it's made this whole other, like all of these other unintended consequences that are kind of starting to catch up with us. Uh, I know for me, I can look back, and probably anyone like in college currently, um, social media did not start for me until I was a few years into college. And so looking back, like I don't really feel like it had this huge impact, but I cannot imagine having social media in junior high or high school. It wreaks havoc. So there's a few areas that kind of tend to be the prevalent impact. And so there's mental health impact, political impact, discrimination impact. And there's so much research that goes along with those impacts. For example, mental health. A 5,000 person study showed that higher social media use is correlated with self-reported declines in mental health, physical health, and overall life satisfaction. That's a lot. And it makes sense. So I've talked in other workshops that our brains are wired a certain way. And so it really comes down to science. Our brains are not wired for truth seeking. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but when you are looking at your social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, Twitter, when you're scrolling, there's an algorithm that curates that information directly to what you are wanting to look at. It times how long you stay on a certain post, and then it creates more posts just like it to keep you engaged. And so a lot of times, like our phones can hear us, right? Like, oh God, that sounds so crazy, but it's true. So often I'm talking about something with my family or friends, and I pop onto Facebook and there's an ad for it. It's crazy, it's wild. So it hears us talking about our political affiliations, frustrations with the world, and then it creates this content for you that confirms your beliefs, which makes you feel good, and it doesn't give you any information that challenges your beliefs. Social media is divisive, and it also is built to make us feel good and connect you to people that have the same thought processes as you, which, yes, that can be good, but also it creates this division, and you don't get, like, if social media is the only place you get your information, you are not getting the whole story. No matter what topic you're talking about, you're not getting the whole picture. Okay, this is such a big topic, but the effects of social media addiction are so important, because knowing that information is the start to developing insight and becoming self-aware. And so I think it's important to emphasize some of the dangers of excessive social media use, because your brain is intrinsically, it likes getting rewarded. We like feeling connected to other people. And so when you get a notification or you get a like or someone tags you in something, your brain feels like it's getting rewarded. And so you continue to post, you continue to comment, you continue to engage to get that feeling more. Does that make sense? So what happens in that process is depression symptoms can increase because your brain stops producing those happy chemicals. And the only way that it's getting happy chemicals is from getting that feedback from social media. Self-esteem decreases because you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. You're only seeing filtered versions of people. And that like creates this like grass is greener mentality. And so you start not liking your own life and wishing you had something different. It leads to social isolation because you end up more disconnected from the real world. Productivity, whether it's not doing your schoolwork, getting distracted at like your job, your mind is constantly elsewhere because you're wanting to check into your social media and get that connection. Sometimes people start assigning value to themselves and their life based on other people's opinions, on how many likes they get, whether their post is getting a lot of engagement. And like if you lose sleep at night thinking about social media or checking your phone or staying up, sleep deprivation makes you irritable, more fatigued, impacts school, impacts work, impacts your ability to engage in meaningful relationships. It's this cyclical process that is fueled by your brain getting rewarded. It's pretty interesting, actually. Okay, so like I was just talking about, that reward center in your brain getting triggered by social media, that's where it becomes addictive. And so that reward area in your brain is this chemical messenger that affects your decisions, your thought processes, your sensations. And so when someone experiences something rewarding, your brain then associates that activity with positive reinforcement, getting likes, getting tagged. And so there's this perpetuating factor in social media that the reward centers of the brain are most active when people are talking about themselves. And so when a person posts a picture of themselves, their life, their accomplishments, their family, and they get positive social feedback, it stimulates the brain to release dopamine, which is that happy drug in your brain. It's this happy chemical that your brain releases. And fun fact about dopamine, you can get dopamine from exercising, you can get it from hugging a loved one, you can get it in all of these other ways that don't have to do with social media, but such a significant part of our lives right now are the screens, because of COVID and quarantine and kids being stuck on computers, which makes it all the more important to limit screen time and become more aware of the impacts of social media and how it's affecting your brain and just your smartphone in general. So social media can become problematic when someone is viewing those networking sites as like coping mechanisms and ways to relieve stress, ways to connect, increases depression. All kinds of issues come with it. But really, what's important to know is that it literally creates a change in chemicals in your brain. Mind blowing. I really liked this little cartoon thing here about social media distortions and the mom going, "Why do you think they call it viral?" It just made me laugh. Okay, like I said, so there is so much research about how social media, smartphone, all of that impacts your brain. But I wanted to share this one specific study about how social media likes affect teenagers' brains. So they did their study on 150 teenagers between the ages of 13 and 18. Teens were given photos of different items, including some of their own photos. They gave them photos that had different amounts of likes from both friends and strangers. And what they found was getting more likes from both friends and strangers, there was a much higher activity level in the part of the brain that is the most sensitive during adolescence. So social media, the other findings that they came up with, social media likes influence decision-making in teenagers. It also inhibits teens' brains from engaging in certain activities, like decision-making, because their decisions are so influenced by social media, but also other activities like just regular in-person social settings. And the final finding was increased stress, depression, anxiety, tension, and overall lower life satisfaction in Generation Z. So again, this is about developing awareness and insight. So recognizing a social media addiction or that it might be creating some impact in your life for the negative. So checking your phone first thing in the morning, rereading, double checking social media, constantly checking social media, feeling anxiety when you cannot check your social media, getting upset when you don't get the response you were hoping for, losing track of time browsing through social media, which means you're neglecting your friends, family, school, work, hobbies, spending a lot of time overthinking, planning, scheduling your posts, and questioning or deleting your posts when they aren't getting the attention that you want or were hoping for. Okay, again, research. Research has shown there's an undeniable link between social media use, negative mental health, and low self-esteem. So these negative emotional reactions are produced due to the social pressure and sharing things with others, but like also the comparison of material things and lifestyles that these sites promote that you see scrolling through. And again, I know I kind of ranted about this already, but all you're seeing on social media is curated content. What you see and what I see on my pages, not just because the differences in friends or where we might live or what we follow, but literally we are just given different content. Certain posts are going to be posted before others based on what I stop and look at, what I click on. So advertisements and posts are specifically designed to appeal to you based on your interests. I know I keep saying this, it's just kind of crazy to me, but you might see these pictures and feel jealous, depressed, or even suicidal due to the fact that your life might not seem as perfect as what you see on social media. This is not a new thing, and you might say I'm being dramatic when I talk about suicide related to social media. It's real. There was that show on Netflix, 13 Reasons Why, I think it was called, a couple seasons of it, and that shows what bullying and online bullying and social media bullying can do to somebody. It's a really impactful, and it's real. It's science. It's the way that your brain is, like, it's the way that our brains are wired. So kind of carrying that even more, social media facilitates this environment where you are constantly comparing yourself to the realistic offline version of yourself, I should say, to the flawless, filtered, perfect makeup, edited online version that you get with filters and all of those things that are available to you on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. And it leads to this like overall general dissatisfaction. Another aspect of that is the concept of fear of missing out, FOMO, that you might see a picture of a social event or party or something that you weren't invited to and start kind of questioning yourself of like, I thought they were my friends, like, why wasn't I included? And it just overall like takes a toll on your self-esteem and feelings of self-consciousness and the need for perfectionism. And these things can manifest themselves into social anxiety, which means you're going to limit your contact with people in the real world and increase your contact with people on social media, which isn't good. We need real in-person life interactions. We are all at risk for addiction to social media or our phones. And like that being said, youth are so much more at risk. The overuse of social networking sites can be far more problematic in children and young adults because their brains and social skills are still developing. They don't have the coping skills or the wherewithal to find peace and grounding outside of social media if they're feeling upset or triggered. So adolescents who use social media from a young age have more limited social interactions, more limited social skills. And despite the fact that they're interacting with people on social media, it doesn't necessarily translate to the real world. And so the constant, perfectly filtered photos that appear, again, lower self-esteem, and the ongoing exposure to the unrealistic beauty standards through social networking sites can affect how teenagers perceive their own bodies. And again, like limited coping skills, limited social skills. And so youth are just so much more at risk. There's also so much more competition. Like the competition for attention and likes can lead to online bullying, name calling, rumor spreading, harassment, all of these things that happen on a daily basis. And with social media being so accessible to kids in junior high and high school, the opportunity is there more than it ever was before. Okay, here's the good news. We are self-aware enough to identify the mismatch between our brains and the technology we use, which means we have the power to reverse the trends. So the rest of our PowerPoint here is going to give solutions and resources. So number one, be a good example. If you are a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, be a good example. You also get off your phone. Like I know I am guilty of sitting on the couch watching TV and also being on my phone. So it's about developing insight, being aware, and being a good example. If any of these things are feeling very real for you, it might be time to take a break from social media. Cell phone contract. I actually have examples of it that I will show you on the next slide. Managing your social media diet, limiting your access to one device, like don't look at on your tablet, your phone, and your computer, like limit it. Set up times for yourself for social media access. Expectations for phone-free interactions. So like no cell phones at the dinner table, no cell phones during homework time, no cell phones during class time, no cell phones after 9 p.m. So implementing real rules and boundaries that are realistic for your home and your family. So parents getting phone, email, social media, passwords, all of the passwords, turning off the phone at a certain time, no downloading apps or music or whatever without permission. And a really good rule of thumb is don't take pictures of yourself or anybody else that you would be embarrassed for your parents to see or your grandparents to see or your principal at the school to see. It's just a good rule of thumb. Okay, I am super, super into these cell phone contracts. Having a phone is not a right, it's a privilege at the end of the day, in my opinion. And it can be taken away at any time for any reason. And so having these realistic conversations with kids, teens, that there are expectation and rules around having a phone, I think it's a super important conversation to have. And I really like all of the rules listed in here, but this has to match your family and what works for you. And so following the rules wherever I am, school, church, activities, letting my parents know about text, calls, social media, making sure your phone's charged, taking care of it, being responsible, making sure it's in good condition, giving the phone over to the parents at any time for any reasons, parents knowing passwords. You know, I really like this. And so I Googled cell phone contract, and there are tons of examples, so many of them. So there's some right there for you, or you can create your own. I also really, really loved these guidelines for social media and technology as it relates to children. And so it talks about age guidelines and how many hours even are just like recommended for a 6 to 12-year-old. It says 2 hours a day maximum. Again, I know the reality of that right now with COVID, but outside of sitting in front of a computer, right? Because that's what how you're doing school, phone limits, right? Or video game limits, it's screen time. General rules for cell phone usage, social media tips before you post. Think, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Those are really good rules for anybody, not just kids, but I really like these. Also found these on by Googling. Yeah, I love these. I think this is a really great resource. If you want it, I can email it to you. Okay, what else can you do? I am a big fan of the saying, when you know better, you can do better. End of story. And so really, if any of this is new to you, maybe you should dig deeper. If it is resonating with you and feel like it's really impactful for you or your children, and you notice some of these and you're like, oh, yeah, right? When you know better, you can do better. And so I really, really believe in doing your own research and educating yourself so that you can learn more, know the science, and know what steps to take for yourself or for your kids. There's so much information out there. So there's this book called American Girls, Social Media and the Secret Lives of Teenagers. Really good book. The documentary called The Social Dilemma that's on Netflix. You can also watch it online, I believe. It's amazing, right? Like, it's about, and like, I watched The Social Dilemma and I did not delete all of my social media, but it's about having insight and recognizing it and knowing it. There is this like 25-ish minute YouTube video called Why You're Addicted to Your Smartphone. It's pretty funny and pretty eye-opening. I really, really liked it. The first part's really funny, so go give that a watch. The link is here, or you can search Why You're Addicted to Your Smartphone. It's this marketplace. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what the name is, but it's called Why You're Addicted to Your Smartphone. And there are also apps. Life 360 is another app that I didn't put on here, but I feel like that's more about just limiting check-ins. because you can see, like if you're a parent and you just want to check in on your kid, it's giving them the opportunity to not just be on their phone. RPact, this is an app that allows parents to control the amount of screen time of certain apps and shut down apps during certain hours, such as bedtime, school, study time. Pretty awesome. And there is another app called Onward, which is an addiction management app designed to equip both adults and children with the tools to overcome compulsive habits and break bad habits. So in this case, we're talking social media. And lastly, here are a few more resources. There are quizzes. The link is here, but you can also Google it. Am I addicted to my smartphone quiz? And do I need a digital detox quiz? And really loved this, A Parent's Guide to Teen Social Media and Smartphone Addiction. There's a whole article about it, but there also is a whole YouTube video about it. Really, really, really good information. It is this woman named Lisa Beyer, and she recognized her daughter was having an issue, and she had her kiddo do a detox break and actually walks you through what it looked like on day 1, day 5, day 10, and so on, of what it looked like during her 15-year-old daughter's digital detox, and the hardships that came with that, and the successes that came with that, because not saying it's easy, but it is worth it, at least to look at it and pay attention to it. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have questions, please let me know or give me a call. If you need support, let me know. Give me a call. Nexus has a lot of amazing services for youth and families in our community. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. I know that was a ton of information, but thanks for watching.